Okay, so sorry about that. Second attempt, my whole system crashed on me here. I think you might have watched the first part of this, but if you didn't, this short video is really addressing when there's a clash, when you're talking to somebody else, when you're trying to create more rapport with them, when you feel like you're sort of going back in circles with that person. And it might be that you've got a certain style of talking and ideas in your head, and they've got a slightly different approach. One of the big conflicts is if you're quite singular by nature and you're talking to somebody that's really quite wide thinking, or vice versa, if you're somebody that's quite wide thinking, lots of ideas, and the person you're talking to is quite singular by thought process. And there's no right or wrong here, but it's understanding the differences. So I'm just checking down now to see, I've got my screen over there now. What I've got is three things that I'm going to suggest that you actually do here. Now, when I go through the CWI process, I talk about these 38 components, and some of this is built into those components. But just for now, to help you to avoid that, or at least to ease that problem over there, first thing to do is ask a question. Now, the great thing with asking a question is, if you ask the right question, it makes the person that you're talking to feel more important. So just by simply asking a genuine, honest, and authentic question of that person, you can make it one of two types, or there's several types, styles of questions, but if you want to singulate it down and make it narrow and tight, ask them a question about themselves. Or if it's a discussion about something broader, ask the question about that subject. So if you're dealing with somebody who is very scatty by nature or very creative, so if you talk to me, for example, I'm often coming up with lots of different ideas. So if I was talking to myself, I would ask me the question, what about that area here? I would ask a question that narrows me down to get to that specific point over there. Hopefully this is making sense. So somebody's got, oh yeah, I've got this idea, I've got this idea, I've got this idea. Okay, great. Can we just talk about that idea there? Yeah, okay, so what is it you want to know? So you kind of bring them onto that question. And I would probably ask the question along the lines of, okay, you've got some great ideas here. Can we just focus in on that specific area you just come up with there? I think that's a cracking idea. Oh, thanks very much. Specifically about that area, can you tell me, boom. And now what you're doing is you're bringing that question, that focus, that conversation down to a specific area inside of that creative area they've got. Equally, if you're dealing with somebody that's very specific by nature and you're quite wide by nature, and you need them to consider maybe one other factor, so they're focused just in here, and you're getting really, and every time you have this conversation with them, it always feels like it's the same loop. They want to go there and you kind of want to go a bit broader. Now you might be trying too broad for them, which can piss people off, so you need to come out just a little bit. You go too wide too fast, they get confused. So when I'm talking to people who are learning to speak, for example, and they're in front of an audience, if their audience is very analytical and the speaker's quite big picture, they need to bring their audience from here out. If you go too quickly to an analytic, they go, whoa, completely confused. Is this making sense, by the way? Hopefully it is. Maybe you can give you a wave, give you a thumbs up or whatever, that makes sense. So I might say, okay, obviously we're talking about this particular area here right now. Let's just see how that links to this. Now what happens is by doing that and that, it's much easier for the singular thinker to go, okay, let me switch my focus to there. But if you go this, 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 and this, you're going to lose them. So it's all about broadening the focus, but in a narrow way, or somebody's very wide, narrowing the focus down. So use questions to redirect them. And again, we can be talking about a subject or something that they're interested in, or we can actually ask them a question about themselves and then shift the focus towards the subject. So I'm kind of going two stages. And actually that's very good to personalize it. All right, so that's the first thing. The second thing now, having asked the question, is to observe them. And there's a whole bunch of things we can talk about here, but I just want to notice their eyes. I just want to notice their breathing, and I want to notice what their reaction is to my question. So if I ask a question, they go, oh God, then maybe I've taken them to a subject that feels painful or they just don't want to discuss. And they're going to resist that. So I might need to back off, ask a question that goes in the back door, a different style of approach here. So the observational process is, by the way, if you're looking at the communicating with impact process, and if you haven't been through it, just to share with you, there's three things that we need to be focused on, three key areas, 38 components, but three key areas. You, the person delivering, them, the person or the people you're communicating with, and the environment in which you're actually communicating. So the question falls into the you section, believe it or not. It's the actual communication, it's the dialogue, it's the language part of us. The them, where we're doing observation, is actually part of there. So when I talk about observing people, that is in the them section of communication. So I'm actually now asking them a question and I'm watching to see how they react. Their reaction helps me then steer the conversation, drill deeper or go slightly wider out. And then what I want to do is I want to kind of mirror them. So if they kind of put their hands in their pockets, and this is NLP techniques now, and they go, okay, that's a good question. I might put one hand in my pocket, not two, because it looks too obvious. And they go, oh, that's a good question. They kind of sigh. I might go, yeah, it is a good question. I guess the reason I'm asking the question is, and now I'm breathing in their pattern and I'm trying to get into a rhythm with them. If they say to you, oh my gosh, all right, so you want me to focus on that now? I was thinking about these details here. And they kind of go, oh my gosh, and I want to focus on there. You're going to go, yes, so what I was thinking by asking you to focus here is I want to get my body language, my breathing and my rhythm, and ideally my language and various things like that, in a rhythm similar to theirs. So if they say, I see what you mean, I need to be using visual language. If they say, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and they put their hands in pocket, I might say, yeah, so I heard myself, I was literally talking to myself, and I heard myself asking the question this, or I might say, what is it you hear me saying? And they go, what I hear you saying is, or I hear the question. So I'm using a language similar to that. I want to slow them down, shift their focus, observe them, and then get into a rhythm. It's a bit like a three-legged race. You know, in a three-legged race, you know, you can get into a rhythm is when those two legs are in synchronicity. You need to do that with your conversation. You need to create a flow into your conversation so that they feel in a rhythm. Then you can start to steer them and take that conversation in a different place. So that's all I want to say. I mean, it's a simple technique. There's a lot more behind that, of course, but at this stage, go have some fun with it. See how you get on. Hopefully that was useful, and that this video actually recorded, because I don't know. I'm hoping it's worked, and I'll see you on the next live. Have fun communicating with impact.